All right, we are back, everybody. No Fixed Agenda, presented by Bubs Naturals. Omar, why is it that I want to sing "Bad Boys, Bad Boys"?
What you gonna do? I know why. Because
we are talking police conversation today. Exactly. So right in my brain, the Bad Boys came right out. And I think it was because I did that post today on social media and I was just like, let's just do this. But
he's a badass cop, dude.
Nobody wants to hear us sing though. That's
I speak for yourself. All right? I sing frequently.
So we have Cy Foster on the podcast today and one of the old man crew here at OTH, which is awesome. And one of the coolest, probably most humble guys. And I say that and there is no joking with that.
No, he's like the most humble savage I know. And I say that like, you ever heard the term humble savage? He's such a beast in the fitness industry and just like his performance overall, but he's so humble about it and encouraging and loving. It's
hell yes.
Unique. It's a very unique trait.
Yeah. What I love about Cy is the fact that he doesn't really talk a lot about himself.
No.
So this conversation here kind of brings out a little bit of that. So if you are listening and Cy, he kind of goes into his backstory a little bit more about what he grew up with and how he got into being a police officer.
Bro, that probably the highlight of the conversation for me to understand where his passion was to become an officer and his upbringing was huge. And I think the biggest takeaway that the audience is going to get is that there's a human behind that badge and not just any old human, not somebody, that, the stigma of bad media on police officers or peace officers or people of service. I think taking what Cy is going to be sharing in this episode and putting the human behind the badge is going to be huge because he's an amazing human being.
Yeah. He's got 20 plus years.
Correct.
In the force. And it's unbelievable. And he's done everything from street patrol to gang related stuff to jail service. He's seen it all. And that's what's great is he shares kind of something a little bit from every single piece that he's done and the training that goes behind it. So to learn a little bit more about what police have to go through too. And it's crazy being here in California, some of the laws that they have to work around, for criminals and stuff. It's unbelievable.
It made me extremely empathetic, dude, because I'm like, what? 100%. You call the police, man. Why can't they take care of it? You're like, because they can. Their hands are tied.
Exactly. Yeah. So that in itself was just a really cool conversation and everything. So let's just get right into this because it's such a fun episode talking to him. And I hope you guys really take away that, like Omar said, police are human beings. There's a human behind that badge. And all in all, they're there to help protect us as best they possibly can. So you guys enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, Cy Foster.
This is No Fixed Agenda, brought to you by Bubs Natural. Their mission statement is simple. Live better, live longer. Bubs helps fuel people to reach their maximum human potential through supplements sourced from nature's highest quality ingredients, while giving 10% of all proceeds back to charity. Learn more about their NSF sports certified collagen peptides and electrolyte drink mix at bubsnaturals.com.
I'm taking this train to the promised land. Won't you give it up? You understand. We'll take one foot forward. Don't look back.
You made yours longer. Mine's is shorter. I like it short and stocky, bro.
I like mine long and thin. I guess I don't know. Working the sides. So,
are we talking sexual positions today?
Yeah. Now it's just three dickheads in a podcast. Yes. Let's get it.
Creepy old man podcast.
Creepy old man podcast. Do not do that. The whole entire point of this was to get you kind of in and just have a really good fucking fun conversation with it. So
sweet. Let's do this.
We appreciate you coming in, taking the time off. Like Cy made time off to come in and talk to us today from his very important.
I'm a busy man.
husband and father duties of taking Troy to the dentist.
Dude, the reality is we got him out of taking him to the dentist.
Yes. I was like, you can drive your damn self. You're 18.
Yeah. Yes. You have a car.
You have a car. You can drive. Unlike, let's talk about that for a second, because Troy was late bloomer into the driving aspect of it.
Yeah.
Right. My nephew. So I was talking to my nephew the other day. My nephew is going to be 21 this year.
Okay.
Doesn't want to learn how to drive.
What?
I got you all beat.
Dang.
When would Troy started driving?
Probably 17.
I got you beat.
What is it?
My daughter didn't start driving until she was almost 25
Holy crap.
because she didn't want to. And she didn't need to. I took her to drive. We taught her how to drive, the whole thing, but she did not want to drive.
Wow.
She did not want to drive. Both my daughters.
It's fucking weird. Like, I don't understand today's generation.
No.
I am sorry for anybody who is young that's listening in on this. What the fuck? Honestly,
That's
why?
like your freedom.
Why?
Right there.
100%.
But back in the day, dude, that was the vibe, man. It's like, oh, we can drive.
Yeah,
we can leave.
Yeah.
Bye. I can go.
Yeah.
There you go.
100%. And I'm like, why do you have no interest whatsoever in going and driving? And it's so much into that, I can just Uber everywhere.
Yeah. No.
Well,
Like, wow.
I can tell you that for my son, that's what it is. Uber, everything comes to him. He can get a ride from
DoorDash
anybody.
and everything. Like everything.
Food
comes.
gets delivered.
Yeah.
He can talk to his friends online.
Yeah.
So it's like, why do I have to leave? Why do I need a license?
I got a kid. So my stepson, he learned how to drive early, but refused to buy a car because, and not that he couldn't, because I didn't buy any of my kids' cars. Nobody got a car.
Yeah.
And so he refused to buy a car. You would think it's because of his laziness. No, he wanted to save his money. He's like, a car's an expense that I don't need. And so 6 kids, bro. I got a gamut of like weird ones, right? And some that are just like fit the stereotypical, I want to drive, want to get out of town and do the thing. And I got some that are like, I don't really need this. And I got another one that's like, I don't want to spend the money, Dad. Like, it was like a thing, dude. So it's just different, dude. Like, and 6 human personalities will teach you some things about how to deal with people. Just saying.
Well, but that's the thing. I guess I just don't understand, because when all of us had the opportunity to start driving, we were like, and you were probably driving way earlier than
legally possible.
Right.
I won't tell you, but yeah. So I started driving when I was 9, dude.
Yeah, see?
9 years old, bro. I could barely reach the pedals.
Yeah.
And it was a 510 Datsun missing a window in Mexico. Like, this is what it was.
Right?
It was like, and reality is, my uncle showed me how to drive because he wanted to be able to pick him up from the bar.
I don't know what happened. I'm drunk,
Uber back in the day, yo.
Uber, okay.
Fuck yeah.
He's sober. It's okay. He's 9.
Granted, it wasn't a small town in Mexico, so if they got pulled over, everybody knew each other, and it was like, oh, you're that kid. Okay, go. You know what I mean? I know where you're going. So yeah.
Man, yeah. That's the thing.
How old are you when you started driving?
Well, 16 officially, but I started driving probably when I was 14, like learning like how to do it. I didn't really drive anybody around or by myself until I was 16, but it was that I wanted to, as soon as I was able to, like my dad to be like, hey, you want to learn how to drive stick? You're
like, hell yeah.
Like, okay, let's go test it out. Let's go do it. And then I remember the first time I ever drove my parents back from some kind of school function. Yeah. We had like some awards thing in high school and stuff. So I drove them back, and it was like, as soon as I got my license, I was in it, ready to go. Gone. Vehicle. Okay. I don't need you to take me anywhere whatsoever.
Dude, me learning to drive was like a thing of like coping, like for my family, like legit. So I learned, my uncle wanted me to pick him up from the bar, or he didn't want to have to take me everywhere. My mom was okay with me driving, even in the United States, because she would want to go to LA all the time. And so I remember my first drive from San Diego to LA, I think I was like 14 or 13 years old. Other than that, it was just like to the store, this, that. And then when I drove to LA, dude, it freaked me out, man. I was like driving across the checkpoint.
Yeah, because you never know if you're going to get pulled over.
100%,
that's a long stretch of a lot of cops right there.
Oh, yeah, dude. I was panicking, bro. It was so bad. It was so bad. But when did you learn how to drive?
I'm already a cop, right? Okay. So I stole my brother's and sister's cars and my parents' car.
There you go.
So I learned like 13, 14.
There you go. See?
And never got caught, thankfully, because I probably wouldn't be employed right now. But yeah, it was fun. I got to learn stick in my brother's car. That was a new thing. I got stuck on a hill a few times, but we got it out of there.
Well, you A-framed it or what?
Well, I figure out the balance of the pedals, and then I just went, wow. Just, you know how it goes. Do the little hiccups there. Here. So yeah, learned my brother's car. He probably didn't realize his clutch is burnt out, but hey, you know what? He's going to learn now. If you're listening to this, so sorry, you already paid for it.
That was the reason why your clutch burned out.
Yep. That's when you went on your senior trip and you left your car at home and the keys.
So was it really stealing because you had the keys?
Well,
yeah. Hey, I'm just saying.
He might have left it in his room and I might have went in there and grabbed it. But.
No, but I mean, stealing was like popping the thing, breaking it away. Yeah.
No, I didn't hotwire anything.
Yeah. You're good. So you borrowed it.
Yes. Yeah. I will share this with you guys, though. My mom did call the cops on me. She knew I took her car.
Oh.
Yeah. I made it home before the cops found me, though. So I think I'd rather have the cops find me because she whooped my ass that day. It was nice.
So I'm glad we're talking about this because, for me, like, learning to want to interview on podcast, growing up the way we did or I did, right? And it was like, cops are dicks. And so for the listeners out there, size a cop.
Secrets out.
Secrets out, right? And so like I met you at MROC. I didn't know you were a cop then. And I was like, this is a cool dude. He's, first of all, size an animal, a freak of nature when it comes to fitness. I didn't know that. And I thought, you're just a cool dude. And so growing up the way I did, cops were the dicks. That's what I was taught. And then growing up as an adult, I was like, not all cops are dicks.
Yeah.
Some people are just human beings. And then I met people personally like yourself. And then I helped like 3 or 4 people become cops, right? We have somebody in the gym that's actually trying to get into the academy right now.
Oh, nice.
So that's like, so I'm like, I help so many people become cops. I know cops. And so for me, that was the biggest thing, like interviewing you and hearing like the human aspect of you. Like, oh, I stole my brother's car. I stole my mom's car. My mom called the cops on me. Hey, so cops are human beings, right, y'all?
Yes, we are. And I ran from the cops a lot, too. So they never caught me.
That's what makes you a good cop, though.
There you go. Because I know where you're going to be hiding.
So from that perspective, I kind of want to, because I've never really heard this story before. Like, what was it that made you want to be into that law enforcement aspect of it? And the position you're in currently now, was that something that you looked at as the direction you thought you were going to go or wanted to go, or are you sitting somewhere off of that path that you thought when you were like a kid or whatever it was? Like, where are you at now?
I don't know, man. I think you're giving me way too much credit here. You asked like a lot of questions in that one little sentence there.
I want to know the first question.
Right?
Like for me, like
I'm like, wow.
I think like for me, I really wanted to become of service to people after I stopped hating people, because I hated people for a long time. I mean, everyone around me had an ulterior motive and wanted something out of me, or I was that guy that would pull you over because you didn't use your signal light and I was going to beat you with my tire iron. I was that guy. And for me to become the person that I am today, where I just want to help and love and serve and all, like, for me, it was huge to make that transition. I mean, it took a lot. I mean, we talked about it a little bit for Steven, right? when I went into rehab and all that stuff, but I didn't know.
Like a whole 180.
It was more than a 180. It was like a all the way around 10 times, right? And so did not know that I wanted to be a fitness coach or a coach at all. I just knew that I wanted to make money as a kid because I grew up poor in the way I did. So I just found any means possible. When did you, my life kept, transitioned for me to being a coach in my late 30s. And for you, when did you decide? I want to hear the story of like you going into growing up the way you did, because I kind of know a little bit. And
yeah, I'll go back there.
Yeah. So like, I want people to hear that there's a human aspect to people behind the badge, right? And you grew up a certain way, and it kind of motivated you to be the man that you are today in one way or another, right? I want to hear about that. And then I want to hear, like, when did you decide that you really wanted to be a cop? That would be huge.
That was
for me.
exactly the same question.
No,
I
you
asked.
weren't. You asked them like 3 different questions.
It
dude.
was like
You just asked him.
Yeah, no.
What's the difference?
Hey, bro.
What's the difference?
So I broke it down into 2 questions, not 3. Let's rewind the tape.
Play it back.
Here we go. No, but like, tell us, like, let the audience know, like, just don't get into like the grooming stuff. Like, but I would like to know, how did you grow up? I mean, I know you're.
Well, I'm not crying, so you're not going to get that.
Yeah, good.
Um,
All right.
so-
Well, I don't know. It'd be kind of cool.
Wait, hold on. That's Omar's
me.
job. That's
Oh,
Omar's
that's
job.
yours? Okay, cool. All right. So we got the crier here already, so I won't cry.
They call me Chion. Or Jeff. That's Crybaby. Okay.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
English translation.
English.
I don't know. I guess you'll have to go back to my history. So, like you were saying, when I grew up poor.
Yeah.
I grew up in a neighborhood in Hawaii. It's called Waipahu.
Oh.
It's very poor neighborhood, very low class. My dad was a hard worker. He was a heavy equipment operator.
Okay.
And my mom didn't really know what she was doing. She was there sometimes and she wasn't there sometimes. So I think she was into the drugs, but I never knew because I was super young.
Got it.
I had no idea. So she wasn't really there. So I had my oldest sibling who was basically watching us, but he was way too young to really watch us. So he kind of got into the bad scene, got into like the gangs and drugs and all that type of stuff. Yeah. And then I got put into the foster care system because my brother got caught and he went to juvie hall. Let's see, what do they call it? Social services did a visit at our house.
Yeah.
So that's how that whole situation started.
Got it.
Me going into the foster family or foster program. My parents ended up being in the military. I got lucky. You know, there's a lot of foster kids out there that don't get lucky to find a good family.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate that I was in that family. They did the military program on me. So that's kind of what helped me kind of straighten out my act. I always ran away. I always did bad things.
Yeah.
I wanted the attention. So it was always like bad stuff that I would do.
Right.
Plus, I had all that anger and rage in me because I got taken away from my family at a young age.
Oh, yeah.
But
How old are you when that happened?
I was 7.
Wow.
So I was very young, but I would still try and run away because it's an island.
Yeah.
I was always on my own. I knew how to get home.
Yeah.
So I could run away from the house and try and make it home. So I did that quite a bit. After my last ass beating, I probably stopped doing that. So that one hurt.
Took a few ass beatings.
that one hurt. So I had to make sure that I stayed there.
This was back when they used to give ass beatings before, right?
Yeah. Now they go to jail for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But back then that was the real program.
Yeah.
And it straightened me out really quick.
Yeah.
But to make a long story short, my grandfather on my real parents' side, when I was that young, gave me like police toys. So I had like toys that I would play with that were cop toys.
Huh.
So that's kind of what I think got my brain started to, hey, maybe this is what you want to do when you grow up.
Wow.
That's kind of where I think it started.
Yeah.
It wasn't until and you guys know I'm short, not the biggest guy in the world.
But definitely the strongest and some of the fastest. Is all I'm saying.
But when I was in school, I was bigger than everybody. Believe it or not, I was at one point taller than everybody.
Don't give yourself credit. You're average.
You're average.
I'm average.
You're an average height, unlike myself, who's well above average.
Yes, you're well above average.
So of the old man crew, I'm the middle one. All right.
Yes. But I was always like the bigger one.
Yeah.
And everybody would like to challenge me, like kind of like how you told me when you grew up. They would try and fight you and do all this stuff and do all these crazy things. And I was that kid. So instead of fighting, the kids that were getting picked on, I would be the one that would try and protect them. Yeah. And that was always been basically in my genes since I was young. And then I guess it kind of grew up and flourished as I got older. I didn't become a cop until I was like 30. So
wow.
It kind of,
shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a late bloomer into a cop. So basically what happened is my job before, kind of like Omar, I was a project manager for a company and they had me traveling all over the world. So I would only be home maybe 5 to 6 months a year. And I just had my 2 kids. So I'm like, no, I need to find a new job when I turn 30. So that's when I kind of like looked into the police force. Everything happened just so quickly. I took the test, did everything, and it just happened within 6 months and you're in the academy. I'm like, oh, I guess this is happening. So I guess I got to do this.
Yeah.
But the whole time, my whole thing is, I'm going to get religious on y'all, so be careful.
Oh.
I've always prayed. I've always believed in God. I've asked him into my heart. Jesus is my Lord and Savior and everything. And I was praying about this, and he just made it all line up. It was weird. Yeah. And everybody I went to the academy with, they're like, oh, it took me 2 years to get in. It took me a year and a half to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
For me, 6 months in, I was in. And I couldn't believe it. So I was like, dude, this is a sign. If there isn't a sign, this is a sign. Everybody else took so long. For me, you're going straight in.
That's powerful, dude.
Yeah.
That is huge.
Kind of like when I was young, like I said, I protected kids. And then when I got older, I wanted to find something where I'd be secure, stable at home all the time so I can raise my kids. Yeah. And that's when I got into it.
Wow. It's funny. I think that's why we clicked. And so a lot of people don't know this, but part of my childhood was very similar to yours. I mean, I didn't end up in the foster system. I think my mom, I called her the most functional addict in the world. Very similar situations, right? My mom was the most stable one out of all of her siblings. So all of my aunts and uncles got into drugs and bad addictions, right? My mom was the one that kind of left LA. She packed us up in a station wagon, homeless in San Diego, living in the station wagon until church took us in. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the bravest thing my mom could ever do. Because coming from LA, like everybody knows, we knew the environment that brought in that. It was heroin, it was all the stuff. But when my mom moved down, she was struggling with her own addiction. All that being said, once we got taken into the church, it was my first exposure to God and to religion at all. I mean, we got taken in from a house in Logan Heights, and
which is a nice neighborhood.
It's like think of when people think of Hawaii, they think of they think there's no bad neighborhoods in Hawaii. It's like you're like, yeah, he grew up in Hawaii. Yeah, no, there's some hoods in Hawaii, yo. Believe me, I was there. All right, so Logan Heights, and this family took us in, and they're sitting there praying at dinner. I'm like, And then they gave me these little round things. There were beets, by the way. I didn't even know what a beet was, bro. I was like, I didn't even know what a vegetable was. Like, that's how bad it was, right? Fast forward to all of that. Growing up, abusive dad, heroin addict, the whole thing. My sister was the protector until she no longer could be the protector. And then I was the protector. In school, I was the protector. My family growing up in a volatile situation, we were in Shelltown, Logan Heights area, volatile situation, I was the protector. Somebody did something to my sister, I beat the living wholly out of them, right? And so that's who I was as an individual. Oh, okay. And just like you, I think, honest to God, I think God created a path for us to meet because then it was just a click, right? It was just fun. It was easy. And so you have those friends that are easy to be around with. Mm-hmm. They're few and far between. And you have the ones that are not so easy to be around with. Guys. Yeah, sorry. Jeff's the oddball out, right? Jeff, sorry.
See what happens when you're an overachiever?
Yeah.
You got to get down to our level.
Yeah. So
leave the white guy out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the minority.
I'm the minority in this conversation.
Yeah, you are.
So I think it's very powerful that you actually shared that, right? So it's like, to me, I can totally relate to being the protector. And at one point, I thought I was a fixer. Like, I always wanted to fix things. Even at 9 years old, I wanted a freaking toolbox. What 8-9-year-old kid wants a toolbox for a birthday? Yeah. I'm like, me. I wanted one. And so I wanted to be the fixer. I wanted to be the protector. And I had a quick thought in my head about being a cop, but I never wanted to be told what to do. Thought about going to the military. No, I don't want to be told what to do.
That's not the place.
That's not the place to be. I'm like, no, I can't handle this. Like, it's not what I'm going to do. But then I got into supply chain and logistics, the same things. Yeah. I got into my own career, but it wasn't fulfilling. Mm-mm. And then so you left. What was the job you were traveling the world for?
So I was a project manager for a company called Munters. It was like a Swedish-based company. Uh-huh. What they did is air conditioning, heating, humidifying, dehumidifying. So it was like a special niche.
Right.
And they would just have me traveling, setting up all these machines at all these different places, whether it's a lab or all kinds of different buildings. Yeah. When there's floods, we would go there and provide our units to help them dry out their city and stuff like that. So I'd be traveling all over the place.
And was it as fulfilling as what you're doing today?
No, because in all honesty, I had fun because I love work. I love to be busy, and that job was fun. The problem was the travel got to me. Yeah. I didn't mind working the extra hours. I'd be working 80 hours a week, and I'd be fine.
Right.
But it's just the not being home and seeing my kids grow up. That part really hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The jobs with the travel, like, they always look good.
Oh, dude.
And it's always like, yeah, I get to travel. This is great.
Yeah.
And then you start getting into that zone where you start missing out on family. You start missing out on a lot of shit. Like, it's amazing. Like, when I first started my business in the endurance category, like, it was travel nonstop. And it's like, you miss out on a lot of fucking life, man, when you're traveling like that. So kind of get that point of like, okay, I can now be at home, see my kids grow up, be a little bit around a little bit more.
But I mean, growing up the way I did, man, I was like, when I first got the job, first of all, every job that I went to was entry level because I had like no education. So when I got into the jobs and I would like just get promoted and get these jobs that were like, okay, we're going to send you to travel. I'm this little homeboy from the hood, man. You're going to send me to what? And you're going to pay me to do this? Like, okay, I was all about it, bro. I was like, let's go, right? Yeah. Hawaii? Oh, you want me to say, okay, yeah, I'll go there. Yeah, you want me to go? I'll go there too, yeah. But then to your point, you're living out of a suitcase, out of some random hotel, and you're having conversations, long distance relationships with the love of your life and your kids and all this other stuff. It was rough. It got real old real quick, to your point.
Yeah. I know how my ex-wife was a cop back in Illinois. And it was always...
I never knew that from you.
Wow, dude. Look at this.
Wow, dude. I did not know your ex-wife was a cop.
Yeah.
For real.
She was a detective for the state's attorney, actually.
Wow. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So
that's how she kept you in check.
Yeah, it was that's a whole entire another podcast.
So, we'll have that one to just you and I. I want to get into like all
right. You're going to have to dig into that one.
From that, you talk about going to training and all that stuff. Like, it was, so I'm going to circle back around to this in a second, but when she came right out of college, like, didn't do any of the police work at all. No street work, nothing. She knew the right people, got her into being a detective right away.
Wow.
So
insane.
What he's saying is she was hot. I'm not going to lie. There might be a hiring difference.
So it was weird. Like, when she ended up having to go to training, for her, and this is where my question is going to be coming back to you in a second, is she ended up having to go to the state police training aspect of it, right? And you could tell physically that she just wasn't prepared for that, failed the first time, had to go back around, so on and so forth. It was just kind of weird how she got thrown into the state training. Like, for California, does California all kind of bunch into one training, or does each county have their own type of training programs? And is it different from state? Like, how does that work with that? And I look at this question from anybody who's also listening in that might be interested to this question, like, oh, what is that training process, and what do cops have to go through to get to that point of being officially a cop?
Basically, when I signed up and everything went through, I had no schooling. I was kind of like Omar. All I had was my high school diploma. That's it. So I'm going and competing against people who have college educations, who's done this type of job, who's worked for the departments and all that type of stuff. I had no idea what I was getting into. Wow. I knew I wanted to be a cop. I knew I wanted this job so bad. And I also knew I needed a job that's going to be secure for my 2 kids and my wife at that time. So I knew I had to put all my effort into it. Our academy was like a stress academy. It was a 6-month stress academy. It was in Orange County. Other police stations has the same type of academies. Like San Diego has their own type of academy. LA County has their own.
Okay.
So like the state California Highway Patrol, they have theirs, but it's in Sacramento. So that one would be like.
So there is a separation. And I assume it's probably like that because California is so big.
Yes.
As far as that huge. Versus Illinois, where it's like, okay, everybody go here.
We got one academy for all divisions.
Here you go.
You can drive around this whole state in this many hours. California, not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was 6-month academy. I had no college. I haven't gone to school since high school.
Yeah.
So I'm back in the academy trying to figure out, okay, how do I learn all this stuff? Physical wise, I knew how to do everything.
Yeah.
I could push ups, I could do runs, I can climb ropes, I can do obstacle courses, I could do all that. That was easy. The stressful part was trying to learn all the stuff that they have to teach you. So for me, I am not the sharpest tool in the shed, as you guys can tell. So for me, I had to I wrote flashcards. And some people aren't going to know what these are, but there's actually tapes that you used to record yourself.
Tapes?
Oh, yeah, I had to record myself.
Tapes. What is this? This thing is.
So I had a cassette player that I would just read my book onto this thing while I'm reading it out loud so I can retain this.
And now you know why he's part of the old man crew, you guys.
We're old. Now you guys have digital recorders, you have Audible books and all this stuff. We never had any of that. I had to create my own. I had to write my own flashcards. I had to do everything. Nowadays, you kids got these phones, and I'm like, wow.
We had to actually read like Cliff Note things too. Like back then, remember that? Like Cliff Note,
small books.
You get the Cliff, it's 100%.
There was no Google, dude. Yeah, there was no Google. It is like you gotta go read a whole book.
And there's no fuking AI at that time.
No. You couldn't ask somebody to do it for you.
Yeah, ChatGPT was not a thing.
Nope.
That was like Helen from the librarian.
Or it was like your neighbor, like, hey, move your elbow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks, bro.
Thanks. Yeah, 100%.
But that was a very stressful time for me. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Because I basically quit my job. I left it all. I didn't have a job. I was banking on making it through this thing.
Wow.
So it ended up working out.
Talk about jumping, dude.
Right?
Yeah, talk about jumping.
I went all in on that.
Yeah.
I cashed out my retirement from my old company just to make sure I can pay my rent and make sure we had food on the table while I was doing this.
Yeah.
So that worked out. Wow. But yeah, it was pretty rough. But the academy, I mean, shoot, I made it. I failed like one test, but kind of like what you were saying, when people fail the same test 2 times, you're out. And that's what stressed me out when I failed that one test. I was like, crap. Yeah, if I failed it a second time, I'm out, and I don't know if they're going to have me do it over.
Yeah, it's always kind of interesting how they do that, where it's like you're failed, you're out. Like she had to wait like a month to go back.
Right.
Wow.
So I would assume it's somewhere in those lines where it's like,
so
okay,
basically what they do is they try and recycle you into another class.
100%.
Now, if that class is full, then you have to wait, or they just say, hey, you're going to have to reapply. And I didn't want to fall into that. So yeah, that's super stressful, but
that is super stressful.
Yeah, when you've banked everything on this one thing, and if you have to fail and come back, it's like, okay, now I've got to wait 2 months, a month. What do I do?
Go work at Walmart.
Study.
Yeah.
And study. Go work at Walmart so you can pay your bills and study.
Yeah.
Those are the things
you do something, especially when you got kids at home.
You know, from what's the progression typically from the police department? I think I actually had this conversation with you. I'm a huge fan of Bosch. Right. And
you're talking about the
TV,
show,
the TV show, right?
The one on Prime, right?
Yeah, the one on Prime.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of cop shows. The problem is,
so Chips was like your show back in the day, dude.
Fuck yeah,
right there with you. I used to watch that too.
Oh, Poncherello was like your hero. Is that why you hang around with me, dude? Because I remind you of Poncherello.
You remind me of Ponch. You remind me of Ponch. I feel like I'm John.
Yes, without the hair.
Without the hair.
Dude, I just got our freaking next Halloween costumes, bro.
You guys released it. It's supposed to be a secret.
So I've always enjoyed the cop shows, but the problem with the cop shows, they don't really explain where some of these guys fall in line with like detectives versus sergeants versus all of that shit, right? And I think it's quite interesting to me is you watch these guys and like the detectives are bossing everybody fucking around, but I think I realized too that detectives aren't
the bosses.
Aren't really the bosses. They just kind of fall into a certain category where they're like, hey, here you go. So I'm actually quite interested in how the progression kind of works with it, because you have to typically, I think you have to be on street or in patrol cars, right, for a certain amount of time before you start working your way up, right? And that's so where does, for anybody who is a Bosch fan like myself, where do I know I'm gonna keep coming back to dude. We're talking fucking cop stuff now.
We aren't sponsored by Bosch.
Yeah.
We're not yet.
Who's the star of that show? We could get you on the podcast.
Maybe, right? So where do something like, because detectives actually, they make detective work look fucking cool, honestly, on TV shows. Dude, but I don't think it's probably all that cool.
I don't think it's cool at all, dude. I would imagine there's a lot of paperwork involved.
There's got to be a lot of paperwork. Yeah. Because the TV shows, they make it look like these guys are just doing nonstop action work.
Yeah.
Right. So it's got to be a lot more paperwork than you think. But
like a Google search, and all of a sudden they found the killer.
Right? Yeah. 100%.
We only have an hour to figure this out.
Yeah. We have an hour to figure who the criminal is.
Yeah,
Let's go. So
in real life, it takes months.
Yeah. So where does that fall into
All right.
play?
So here's where you guys go to sleep. So when you graduate, most sheriff's departments, when you graduate, you start in the jail. So that's always fun.
I'm
in
sure.
there.
I know you've been there. I think you've got some really good stories.
Yeah, I've got a lot of stories about the jails.
And not being in jail, just working at jail.
Working it. So you're working. You're working as a deputy.
I've been in jail.
There you go. So we got a jail guy here.
We got somebody that was on the inside of the cell and somebody that was outside of the cell. Okay.
And for somebody who doesn't like to be told what to do,
yeah, exactly.
He was on the wrong side.
I was on the wrong side of the cell for sure.
But yeah, I mean, you spend some time in the jails as a deputy, and then you go to patrol, like you were saying. Patrol, you learn a lot. I mean, it's in the jails, you learn a lot because you're actually talking to these guys who actually commit the crimes and do these things, and you get to know that they're actual people too, kind of like what you guys are having with me.
Yeah.
So you learn about their history, and you see why. Like, okay, I see why this kind of you went down this path because it's like. And I'm not trying to stereotype, but a lot of them don't have any fathers.
Yeah.
So when they don't have that father figure in their lives, they kind of take the wrong path. They don't have anybody to steer them. They don't have anybody to guide them. They go into the gangs or get into drugs, and then they commit all these crazy crimes. Then you start talking about their crimes. These are actually, I'm going to be straight up, they're very intelligent people.
100%.
They're in there. They know all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, if you just use that knowledge you have and turn it into something good, you could just change your life. And a lot of people do when they get out.
Well, I mean, they say a lot of the high level criminals are very high intelligent, like almost genius level, like high IQ type of shit.
Yeah.
So that does not shock me at all.
So that's where it reminds me of like the conversation we had with Steven was a similar one where it's like when I was working in logistics supply chain, I literally would hire, ex-cons, felons, addicts, ex-prostitutes. This is what I did. I would go into these organizations. They would question my methods of how I would build the teams, but they literally hired me to build this amazing team. And how did I do it? I literally would go get a bunch of temps that didn't have to go through the background checks. And all of a sudden I would find out that they had a misdemeanor, a felon, or this and that. And it's like a lot of them were drug related. But once if they were working a program and they had gotten out and they had this thing 2, 3 years, 4 years, and it was just on their rap sheet. I think a lot of companies are making a big mistake. If any of you guys are listening that own companies, you need to be looking into this one thing, which is taking people that are rehabilitated. When I say rehabilitated, I know the prison system does not necessarily always do that for them, right? But if they're working a program, when I say rehabilitated, I mean they're working a program.
They're trying to change.
They're trying to change, right? They found a religion or spirituality. They are now no longer doing the illegal behaviors. They are maybe working a rehabilitation system like rehab or 12 steps or whatever. And they're really trying to just make an honest living and an honest, those are the individuals that have, we called it superpowers. And so I've always said that my addiction is my superpower. And then Steven talked about it. He said it and I got chills, and it was like an amazing moment in the podcast. To your point, those people are very intelligent. I got family members that are career criminals. And I used to tell them, if you could just take that mentality and apply it to something in the business world, you are a dangerous individual. They're smarter than me.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I mean, that's not saying a lot, but but from an intellectual and just a intestinal fortitude and grit and just put your head down and grind, there are some dangerous individuals. So for businesses that are looking to build amazing teams, you might want to look into those people and give them a second chance if they're really working a program. And for the people that don't think that they don't have an opportunity after they've made a big mistake in their life, you're wrong. Like, there is so much opportunity out there for somebody like that if they just simply take the time to apply the same effort, intelligence, grit, put your head down and work mentality into something more positive and fulfilling. It's powerful. It's huge.
That part is huge, but the main thing that people say when they're in there is that fast money.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if you would just slow it down.
Yeah.
Take what you're thinking already, convert it, like you're saying, to something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can make thousands again and do it legally.
Yeah. And it's sad because, growing up the way I did in California and even in Mexico, it didn't matter how many opportunities I created for somebody like that. And I got burned a lot.
I got burned more than I actually had successes, to be honest with you. That's why I think the companies are like, I'm not going to do this. But the ones that I had successes for were like home run hitters, and they're friends for life. And there's some amazing individuals that I've helped support with records or throwaways that, you know, a lot of the people that would, and they're amazing individuals. They're amazing members of society. The ones that failed, they're like, I don't want to relearn something new. Like, it was easier for me to do this. It was easier to make that fast money, knowing that that fast money is what eventually put them back into prison or killed them. I mean, I just buried somebody last year because of that. He didn't want to get out of the life. And he was one of those people that just fell out of it, right? He got an opportunity, got fired from his opportunity for whatever reason, his reason or not, right? Or his fault or not. And he fell back into the old life. And so it's easy for somebody who's grown up the way we did to go, well, this is what I know. Instead of going back and putting their head back and going, that's what I know, but what else can I learn?
Right.
And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. You, as somebody who's worked in jails, do you like, and I don't know the maximum security versus regular county prison, whatever it is, whatever you were in, as somebody who's worked there or somebody who you've seen work there over your coworkers, do you find that people start having empathy for some of these people? Because there's got to be times where you're actually getting to know some of these guys at some point in time, right? Like with small conversations and everything else. So,
you know, there are some cops kind of like what Omar said. You're trying to help these guys. You're trying to, you know, teach them and try and guide them and try and, you know, see that there is a better way of life. There's more light at the end of the tunnel. But then when you're steering them that way and they ended up fighting somebody or they're doing something dumb or they end up getting caught with drugs or something, you're like, dude, we're trying to help you out, trying to get you out of here. You only had like 10 days. Now you just got added on another 30.
Yeah.
So you kind of get like, you're like, man, I was totally helping you out and I just got kicked in the nuts basically. And it sucks. But I mean, yeah, a lot of cops, they do have positive stories, kind of like what Omar was saying. Yeah. There's some of these guys that do get rehabilitated, that actually do good things in life and actually help others to help. Like, hey, dude, I was in the same shoes as you.
Yeah.
And now look at me now.
Yeah.
Kind of like my brother. And I've never told you guys about my brother. So my brother was in prison for over, I want to say 12 years. Wow. For most of his kid's life. Mm-hmm. He went in the first time dealing drugs, got out, went back in for dealing drugs again. And now he's out and he's basically doing the same thing that my dad did. He's completely changed his life. I'm very proud of him.
Yeah.
He's not chasing that fast money anymore. He wants to live with his kids. I mean, granted, they were older when he got out, but you know what? They accepted him. His wife accepted him back and everything was going good for him. And now he's got his grandkid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's living his life after he tripped up. I mean, he wanted that fast money at the beginning, but now he's learned his ways and he's grown up. He's becoming the man that he needed to be for his son.
Yeah.
And now that he's going to be there for his grandson. So it's awesome.
That's like a cycle. I love watching that cycle being broken. And that's like the number one thing that growing up the way we did. And I get choked up just thinking about it because
this is where he starts crying.
This is where I start crying. And it's only because it's that reoccurring pattern for the people that come from that environment.
Well, we have those chains we got to break.
Yeah. And once you break the chain, it legitimately will never go back to where it was. It's like breaking a chain on your bike, right? You have to buy a new one or you can't repair the same one, right? And I tell people this all the time. Once you break one chain or one habit or one behavior, it will never come back because now you've tasted something that's better.
Yeah. Right.
And so it's really hard to express that when they know nothing else. It's like the ceiling is where the cap was put by their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what they know. And so they I can't see past that. But once they poke their little heads break that little barrier, they're going to be like, oh my God.
Like another level.
There's like multiple levels. Like, oh my God, I don't have to sit there and watch somebody be OD dragged out of my basement right now. I don't have to fight over the last egg in the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go sell dope to buy groceries for my kid. I don't have to do all these things. No, you don't. You just got to be able to learn something different or see something different and be exposed to somebody different. So for you, that was your adoptive parents, right?
Yeah. So they straightened me out.
Yeah. And so so not everybody has that. So for me, in just coaching now, it's like one of those things where I get criticized a lot in the industry for my prices being too low, or for me wanting to work with somebody or a demographic that doesn't have any money or whatever. I'm like, I'm never going to change that. That's always going to be me. I don't care if I have to work a second job to keep my doors open. This is what I will be doing.
That's what makes us us.
That's what makes us. Exactly. So it's like, for me, and the reason why I do that is because of once my mom got clean and sober, she planted some huge seeds in me. And my uncle, who, you know, when he wasn't drunk, he was working his butt off. Right. But he also opened up a whole other door of entrepreneurship that it planted a seed in me. And my mom's seed into me was always love people, because you never know where they're coming from. You never know what their story is. You never know. And to your point, you're a sheriff's officer in a prison, you get kicked in the nut. It's really freaking hard for you to go back and invest some more of that positive energy on somebody else that hasn't kicked you in the nuts, or even go back to the same person that kicked you in the nuts. It's a really difficult thing to do. But once you flex that habit, like I have a tendency to look past a lot of people's mistakes, because I don't think that their mistake is who they are. Mm-hmm. I think the mistake was a result of a behavior that they learned and they probably did again. Now, do you have people that repetitively make that same mistake over and over again? Absolutely. And do you distance yourself from those individuals? Absolutely. But if you have somebody that has been showing that they were putting effort in, and all of a sudden they stop and they make a mistake that hurt your feelings or that you didn't agree with, and you're like, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with that person. And then I have the conversation with that person, and they maybe go back to behaving the way that made them feel better. I will do that for as long as I live, because you never know. The one chance that you give them might be the one chance that will break the chain that they
100%.
That we're cursed with. And so that's like huge. The fact that you were able to do that. So how did you deal with that when you had an inmate that would do that?
Well, you guys know me. I mean, I'll take that, and then I'll just kind of stew on it for a little bit, talk to myself, do the self-talk stuff and pray about it. And then, you know me, I'll eventually go back and try and help that same person out. That's just kind of like you, Omar. That's in my nature.
Yeah. And I think, and I'll get religious with people. And so when I talk about religion, I say, I hate to impose my belief system onto people, even though I believe in God as well. I'm saved as well, and all these things, right? I don't act like the stereotypical quote unquote Christian, right? But the love of God is in me. And so I understand the empathy that God had towards me and all my mistakes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so
we're not all perfect.
Exactly. So when I talk about that stuff and I go, well, I don't like that person because they act this way, or because they're annoying, or because they said this, or because they did that. I got to look past that, because if I don't, I'm going to be that angry son of a bitch that's going to pull you over with my tire iron again. And so I don't want to be that person. So I try as hard as possible to never go back to that person. And I do that by showing empathy all the sinking time, because God, that's what God did for me, right? He took me in. I was a piece of turd. I did all these other stuff. And how can he accept me for who I am?
Right.
And so I'm showing God's grace through my own actions and through my own behaviors. And so I would only imagine that that's something you would have to flex all the time.
Yeah, I've had to flex that a lot. I don't preach to him, kind of like what you're saying. I don't preach to him, but I tell him, you know what? I believe in my God, and I know he can save me. And I hope you find something, whatever it is you find.
If you want to know about it, come and holler at me.
I can talk to you about it. But, I'm not perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I'm just trying to help you out of this.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah. That's just jail part.
Well, so
patrol. Yeah. I don't want to get into patrol. That's going to be the Poncherello thing, man.
Oh, you want to talk patrol first? Because
where were you going to go? Where were you going to go?
So little story time.
Okay.
So Cy knows that we went downtown this weekend, go see a concert. One of the things, and you and I have kind of had this conversation about how California law, it kind of is fucked in a sense.
Kind of.
So here's what Des and I are seeing, right? So we go down, we're at a concert at House of Blues on Saturday.
Okay.
I haven't been down to downtown in fucking years, really, and to walk around and actually
gas lamp
experience, right? And if for anybody who's listening in that has never been to San Diego, gas lamp is not really the best place to go.
It used to be amazing.
It used to be amazing. I think it's
now it's not.
I don't think it's gotten worse. I think go to a different spot. Come up here to North County. We love.
PB? What do you think?
Oh, no, man.
If you want to crawl around,
come on up to
North County. That was it. Carlsbad. Let's go. Yeah. Even Oceanside at this point.
Anyway, so we parked the car. We're walking to the restaurant, and we're walking down the street, and as is most major cities nowadays, there's homeless people everywhere. Right.
Gosh.
Well, California's got the worst homeless.
Right. So we're walking down the street, and in the fucking open, no hiding it. We passed it twice. Just two guys just lighting some crack up.
Yeah,
right
boy.
Right there in the fucking street.
Yeah, boy.
Facing the street.
Yeah,
facing
boy.
people that don't care.
Yep.
I saw, and then we walked down a little bit further, and I got some guy in the alleyway getting a blowjob.
Hey, you saw it too?
Last
time I was down there.
And were you jealous, dude?
No, because it was another guy.
Oh.
That I can never. I can't deny or confirm that. All I could see was somebody on the ground in front of somebody else.
You don't know if it was a guy or girl, though. Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
To each his own. Whatever you want to do, it's fine. But to me, that's where I think some of the police are, to pardon my pun, kind of handcuffed in some regard that they can't.
I like that pun.
That they cannot do much with these guys. They'll get arrested, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're back out the next day.
Yeah.
Right. So it almost gives so much leniency to what people are doing versus what cops can do at this point. And again, you and I have kind of chatted about how you've seen some of that stuff, and you're like, well, yeah, we arrested the guy, but he'll be out tomorrow morning, whatever. How have some of the laws here in California that allow people to have drugs almost in open kind of affected the way you guys have had to do your work?
Boom.
Yeah.
So,
Next question.
He just dropped the biggest bomb.
Yeah. No, we don't want to get you in trouble, though. Yeah.
I'm not looking to get anybody in trouble, but
it's not gonna get me in trouble.
But I think as
the problem is the people they're so it's kind of like what we're talking about. They have this sympathy for all these people that have issues, people who have been into drugs.
Yeah.
So they're voting for these softer laws.
Wow.
It's not quite Portland. Portland right now is
huge. It's horrible.
Yeah. But the state's gone to crap.
Yeah.
So California, we voted for a law which people didn't realize was that, because it was named under Safe Schools Act or something like that.
Completely. Completely different.
I did.
So Prop 47 kind of turned a lot of felonies down to misdemeanors. So those people doing drugs or getting BJs, we're just giving them tickets.
Yeah. Wow. It's ridiculous.
And people stealing stuff out of the stores, they're happening everywhere. You see it all over the news. We can't do anything unless they want to prosecute. A lot of these bigger chains, they don't want to prosecute. So these people get away with free stuff. So it's it's hard. Like you said, our hands are kind of handcuffed.
Yeah.
But believe me, cops want to do our jobs.
Well, no, 100%.
And we want to take these people to jail. But it's like, people are like, you're not doing your job. It's like, well, we're trying to explain to you, you guys voted for this.
Yeah.
We're only enforcing the laws that you guys wanted us to enforce.
Well, and that's again, that has got to make your job so hard. And I think this comes back to, your point where when we were having this conversation about bringing Cy in and talking about police and how humanizing police, because they're trying to do their job, and laws like this that have been put into place have made that so much harder for them to do that. And when I'm down in downtown San Diego seeing people just light up some crack and people getting blowjobs in alleys, knowing full well that, cops are out there more or less knowing full well, they're looking for the drunk driver.
Well, I think the story that we talked about was the guy so in Orange County, we had a guy steal a car 3 times, got arrested, got out, stole another car, got arrested, got out, stole it again.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, how do we keep these people in the jails?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I don't know. And I go back to the 80s, DARE and the war on drugs.
Yeah. That's when it was funded, though. Back then.
Yeah. That's when. Now it's yeah.
Let's try and tax marijuana, but let everything be legal.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah. And so it's I can go back and forth on this one, right? And this is we're getting into political standings right now, dude. 100%.
I'm not a political guy. I'm not looking to get political at all.
No, really, this is the human aspect of the conversation, right? And so for me, it's you absolutely, that's a problem, right? I mean, I think, dude, meth was my drug of choice when I was in my addiction, and I had
Father's Day 4 years ago. I never told either one of you guys. I told Suzette this. Suzette's the only one that knows. I went downtown because she wanted to do that. So I got off on Imperial Avenue off the 5. And it's like, it is the worst.
Terrible.
I was running. It was in the middle of summer. So I rolled down my windows when I got off the freeway. Biggest mistake ever. Yep. It was horrid. It smelled like raw sewage, man. And the city, the cops had nothing to do. There was cops there, but it was almost like they were patrolling the homeless encampments. Only so that there was grills and porta potties and full-on tents on the side of the road. And I'm like, holy crap, I haven't seen this bad. This is back where Father Joe's is at. I haven't seen it this bad. And so I was going down there because my daughter wanted to take me out to breakfast for Father's Day. So we went down and went to some place down there, brunch place. We had breakfast, and then we're walking back to our car. And a guy, and he's sitting there right in front of my truck. And I get in my truck. I say bye to I walk my daughter and her boyfriend to their car because I didn't trust it. And I go walk back to my car, and I sit in my truck, and there's like 5 guys there just literally hitting the pipe. And for me, that was my drug of choice. Smoking a pipe was my thing. And I haven't had a craving for drugs in forever. I can't remember the last time. But the way he was looking at that pipe, I was like, man, that looks good. And I clearly remember thinking that. And I went home and when I have those kind of thoughts, I tell somebody immediately.
Yeah.
I tell somebody that I trust immediately. This is, I got to get it out of my head. I got to put light on it. I got to do all the things. And so I go home and I tell Suzette, she's like, whoa, I can't remember the last time you told me you had a craving. And so to me, from that perspective, the cops it's hard. We have one right now in front of my gym.
Yeah.
We're trying to get the hell out of there. And the cops went over there and really couldn't do anything about it. And I was like, dude, that sucks.
Yeah.
And it only sucks not just for the people that are in the community that are trying to make the community better. Right. And it doesn't suck for just the cops. It sucks for the people that are actually like me that have fight addiction. Right. And so you see that stuff in the street all the time. And so how do you I think there has to be a way to not, the war on drugs was huge, and then we had overpopulated prisons, and now the people are trying to underpopulate the prisons, right? But I think there is a time and a place for prisons. I'm sorry, right? And I come from that arena, and a lot of my families were stuck in the prison during the war on drugs. But I think, in my opinion, I think we need to go back to that in some way, shape, or form.
Well, maybe not just prisons. Maybe you change it into some type of, program to where you can help these people try and get off of that type of stuff, right, instead of making it feel like they're locked up.
Yeah.
Let's actually make it into a program. Some of these guys that are out there, they don't want to help themselves. They're just kind of mindless zombies right now. They're just doing whatever they want to do. Right. And it's like, if you give them some type of guidance and help them try and clean up, maybe they might change. Yeah. We have no idea.
Yeah.
Now they're just all out there.
Yeah. I like that. And so rehabilitation, when I say rehabilitation, back in the day, I was part of a program that a lot of third strikers were, or otherwise you get your third strike and you're out. Mm-hmm. Right. And I was there on my own recognizance. I wasn't on a third strike. And I was one of 2 out of 50 people that were in the house. And so I think if we had that environment where people got locked up because of a drug offense, they sobered up, past their moment of clarity, which is around 30 to 60 days, 90 days. And then you let them go into a program. If drugs is the one thing, unless they're I don't know, sex offenders, repetitive sex offenders, serial killers, all that stuff, right? I think you do feed them into a program that hopefully sticks. And if it doesn't stick, maybe you plant a seed, because that's all it was for me, was a seed was planted. And it took my mom going to rehab and me going to my own addiction to go, oh, I just did the same thing my mom did to me my entire life.
Right.
And that was the seed, because the seed was she went to rehab and then they did an intervention on me. And so it took years, but the seed was planted. And so I think you're right. Absolutely right. Create a program where they do get arrested. They get clean.
Well, if you think about it, they're spending all this money trying to build these encampments, trying to keep them clean, trying to feed them, do all that type of stuff. You're spending billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Why not spend that money and create this program?
Well, 100%. Like you got cities like San Diego that are buying hotels right now and making hotels. Put them in. Like,
or even the people coming across. They're putting them
100%. Like how much money are you actually spending on buying those type of programs or building those type of buildings or buying them to be like, all right, we should just put this money into programs. And you said, it's like, it's amazing to me, like how that just does not get connected at any way.
Whoever's getting that money, not going to say anything.
Yeah.
They're just going to keep collecting.
No, 100%.
And it sucks. And the other problem is it's not only druggies too. You have people with mental health.
Yeah.
So that's the other problem that I had in jails. I had mental health people and there's no talking to them.
And they should not be in there in your opinion.
No. There's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Legitimately wrong with them. And the way you have to, whether it's a cell extraction or take them to courts or whatever it is, they can't talk. They can't do things. They're not there.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because I'm not a mental health professional, but those people, they need help too. But it's not going to be from going to jail. It's going to have to be from some type of people that actually do that type of job.
Yeah.
Us cops, we deal with that type of stuff all the time. You got people running around with knives. We have no idea what they're thinking. Yeah. But I mean, we're always taught, hey, if somebody's got a knife, we come to the game with something better. So we have our guns out, or we have a taser out, we have something out because we don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. Well, besides Portland, we all know, Oregon right now is just
an amazing city, man.
It's
Oregon's gone.
Yeah,
Washington's gone.
It's crazy. So like how many, and maybe you don't know this and don't feel like you have to answer, like, is there a lot of other states that have laws like ours where you're turning those felonies into misdemeanors and stuff like that? Do you know how that works out?
I believe California's the only one right now. I mean, Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon. Wow.
And Washington slowly converting. They'll be there probably in a few years, I believe.
California set the bar, man.
It's all the western cities.
Yeah.
Whereas all the other states, they have other problems.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not like drugs.
No, I mean,
but other cities, they have other things going on. It's just crazy. And I'm not going to go in there because I don't work over there.
Yeah.
But trust me, like what Jeff was saying earlier, a lot of cops want to do their job.
Yeah.
They want to help out the community. Yeah. We want to keep you all safe.
Yeah.
But when we keep arresting people and we keep putting them into jail and then they come out and keep doing the same thing, it gets pretty frustrating, especially with the younger generation. So I have so now I'm kind of skipping ahead. I'm a sergeant within the department.
Mm-hmm.
So now I supervise these young kids and I'm trying to teach them like, hey, you can arrest this guy for this, or you can take this guy to jail for this, or hey, you can give this guy a ticket and at least, eventually he probably won't go to jail and he'll go to warrant. Just think kind of like when I was on the streets, we would try and arrest everybody. Mm-hmm. Because we wanted to keep the neighborhood safe.
Right.
Back then, you were allowed to take people to jail, and they would actually stay in there until they go to court.
Right.
Yeah.
Now they're getting released before they even go to court because they're promised to show up.
Based on that statement right there, how have you seen some of the younger officers like kind of change the way they approach things? Though?
So that part, the younger officers, and I'm not knocking because there's a lot of good officers out there, but they're not as proactive.
Got it.
They're not going out there wanting to do this job because they feel like their job's not being kind of backed up.
Right.
Mm.
So in my department, they back up all our. We have a system of checks and balances. So yeah, we can arrest them, but if the other side's not on the same boat, they're the ones that make the decision whether they go to courts, they stay in jail, they get some type of punishment. We're only enforcing the laws.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this some of the stuff that they're getting in the academy too, as far as some of these laws, knowing full well, like this is what you should expect when you're getting out on the street? Or is this something that you guys as sergeants are providing?
They're learning the actual laws in the academy.
Yeah.
Got it.
But once they get out on the streets, they are seeing something else because it's like, okay, these are the laws, but then this is what's happening when they get arrested.
Yeah.
That's funny. I have a friend that was a drill sergeant and a couple of people in the military, same issue. Same exact issue with the young cadets. It's like they're coming in, they really haven't had a whole lot of hardships in a lot of the case. The greater majority of the cadets are coming in with very little hardships and life underneath them.
Yeah.
And now they're to not to call our servicemen
or women soft. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. That's another show, right? Yeah. But because they're brave enough to be able to sign up and do the things, right? Absolutely. They're different. They're way different. So yeah. So like the older generation was like so seasoned in life in a lot of ways that when they went to the academy or when they went to boot camp, they were okay to be yelled at. Right. And so one of my drill sergeant buddies is like, I can't even yell at them anymore.
No, we don't yell at them.
Yeah, you can't yell at them
back
anymore.
in the day, we would get
I was like, wow, dude. I'm like, this is like we were talking jokingly about last time. Like we got spanked. We got our asses whooped. Oh, yeah. Right.
Now you can't even do that.
Now you can't even do that. So it's like the same thing. It's the same concept. Is that are you guys having the same problem?
Our academy is the same thing. So
right.
now, so what you're doing is you're putting these cops. We used to be in a stress academy. So we get stressed out at the academy so we can deal with stress.
Got it.
Now it's non-stress. So now these cops are going onto the streets and have to deal with stress live and in person.
Ooh.
So back in the day,
deep end shit right there.
You're getting thrown straight
into the deep end.
So when I was in the jails, we were in there for years. Now so I was in there for 7 years. These kids now are getting out within 1 or 2.
Wow.
So I had the experience to be able to talk to all these convicts and these criminals and actually learn their backgrounds. These kids aren't even getting that chance to be able to develop the way they talk to these people, develop the way to communicate with these people, talk them down from because we have some inmates that'll go crazy sometimes. To learn how to talk them down while they're in there, you're in a controlled environment in the jails.
Yeah.
To be able to talk this person down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're thrown out into the streets. That guy's going ape shit, and you need to talk him down. So these kids are just thrown into the fire.
So they got no conflict resolution skills.
No, but you're hoping your training officer, because we provide them with training officers, and that'll teach them that to be able to handle the situation. Here's how the training officer would handle it. Here's how he expects you to handle it. Wow. And it's like on the job training, but you're going from a non-stress academy to a very stressful situation. So things have changed for the younger generation.
That has to be scary. If you think about on-the-job training, at McDonald's, or even in a warehouse, or even like an industrial job. No, this is on-the-job training with life or death on the line here, Like this is some serious stuff. That's scary, man.
Yeah, and you get a lot of cops that get into that situation and they find out that's not what they want to do.
Yeah, one of my buddies that we helped, he I won't say names, but he became an officer in San Diego. He worked with us when I was in logistics for many, many years and went through the academy. Ironically, after I got out of my logistics job, one of my clients that I was coaching in the garage was his instructor.
Oh, wow.
The world's small, dude. All right. This kid's from Ridgecrest, by the way. Like, it was like his small world, right? And I was like, yeah, wait. He goes, I'm actually putting some cadets through the San Diego Academy right now. And they were doing like firearm stuff. And he's like, yeah, I just certified him in for his firearm. Why does that name sound familiar to me? In small friggin' world. Anyhow, he gets in, he gets out of the academy, gets onto his beat, man. And now he got into a couple stressful situations that scared the living crap out of him. Twice, and he quit. And this particular guy struggled with alcoholism. So he found God, he got sober, was working a program, decided to become a cop, wasn't, in my opinion, adequately prepared to handle conflict resolution, found himself in a conflict, thought that being brave was going to be the solution, lost that fight, and it ruined him. And now he went back into his addiction. And now he's no longer with us. It's huge. Like when I say that the topic of this particular podcast for me was so near and dear, and I was so glad that you're part of our community to be able to pull you in and talk to this, because I know you're like the ideal individual to be able to talk to. This comes from the heart. It comes from just years of experience. But cops are humans,
Yeah, 100%.
And so you got to understand that as long as we're humans, we have the potential to make a mistake. And you say there are some bad ones, and like I always say, like there's always can be like I'm a fitness coach, right? So some people say I'm a good one, some people say that I'm not. Ultimately, there's coaches that are good, there's coaches that are bad, there's doctors that are horrible, there's top doctors that are amazing, right? There's every industry has them.
Well, everybody could have that bad day.
100%.
You might have just met that person on that bad day.
Yeah, right.
They might not be that person that you've them as, but they might be going through some stuff.
Yeah,
and that particular time that you actually met this person might have been that day.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is to like way back when the cops were in the news, and not to get too political, they were talking about like defunding the police and all this other stuff. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, man, it was funny to me. I found it funny, right? I'm not a cop, and I grew up on the other side of the coin, and I'm like, why? I'm like, defund the police. Somebody's getting beat up. Call the cops. Yeah, right. You're like, wait a minute. This one makes sense. This add up. Like, wait a minute. You're trying to call somebody you're trying to defund. Like, what's up?
No, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So that to me is pretty huge. But I think that was the biggest thing that I think. But now tell us what you do right now.
So right now I'm working for the gang team. I'm the supervisor for the gang team for our department. Basically, we're just trying to track all these young kids. It's crazy how these kids have these guns and drugs, and they're so young too. It's like, man, you're only like 13. Yeah. Why do you have a gun? And a lot of these kids are carrying it because they're scared. Yeah. There's other kids that have the same thing. There's kids getting stabbed. I mean, you see it all over the news down even here.
Yeah.
These young kids are going to school and have to worry about this type of stuff. When we were young, we fought.
Yeah.
You had your hands and you fought.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about guns, knives, or any of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
These kids nowadays, they're learning how to build these things online.
Wow.
So they're ordering pieces. So so just so people know, you can order gun parts online and you don't have to register these things because there's no serial numbers. So they're putting them together. These kids are that smart.
Yeah. Wow.
They're building them in their homes and then they go test fire them wherever. So we'll get those calls like, oh, we heard shots fired over here. It's probably some kids in your backyard testing their guns and stuff like that.
Wow.
And it sucks. These kids are so young. So we're trying to arrest them, but they're juvenile.
Well, that's the problem.
So juvenile laws are way different in California.
And they're probably a lot more lenient.
Way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just another layer to that whole entire conversation we had already. But, people talk about trying to manipulate the, a Second Amendment and right to bear arms. Well, okay, you try and make that adjustment, but just like you said, there's places out there where you can buy pieces here, pieces there, pieces here, and create your own weapon. And now you're not registered. So how do you even know that it's going to be even registered, whatever, right?
All these people trying to remove that Second Amendment law also don't realize that all these countries that don't have guns, they have guns.
They have guns,
yeah,
right?
They have more guns than we have.
Yeah. And it's like prohibition, right? It's like
They're trying to find a way to get it.
Take away the booze, you're gonna find some. You're gonna find some underground speakeasies, 100%.
So that's the tough thing is it goes all back. It's all the same fucking thing. It's everybody wants this solution, but it's the solution that people are getting wrong. It's like, okay, let's.
But then you start getting into politics though when you start talking about that because they're trying to skew your view. Like, hey, let's take away guns, but there's actually something else going on somewhere else that we have no idea what's going on.
100%, right? And that's the tough part. But
I think any broad brush attempt to come up with a solution is not going to be a one size fit all. In my opinion, right? I think we need to be able to go through as a society, and you bring up a very valid point. We all vote, or at least some of us do. Getting yourself informed to what you're voting in, actually reading the pamphlets, actually reading the laws, actually understanding what you're voting for.
Just don't read the title.
Don't make your decision based off of what you saw on a commercial or on an Instagram post, 100%. Or literally look good, and if they align with your values, then absolutely do you, right? But at the end of the day, I think people just need to be informed that no matter what laws we put into place, there's always going to be a problem. We're human beings as a race. Right. And so the objective of any law, in my opinion, should be one to minimize the ability to create harm. And to create peace. And it's never, we're a society. I mean, geez, I just watched a documentary on Hitler. Yeah. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Things were easier back then.
Yeah. Like those are it doesn't matter what law or what, I mean, it really does. Ultimately, it does matter how you treat people, how you live your life, making sure you do your civil duties and vote and make sure you're informed when you vote, do all the things that we're supposed to be doing as human beings, but more importantly, just love people.
Yeah.
Well,
great way to end that. I mean, that's kind of said it better. I think that's really where we need to figure it out. And there's a long way to go between there and now.
100%.
But Mr. Foster, thank you for coming in, man. I really appreciate it. It was actually quite fun to hear a little bit more about your backstory. And again, it's if there's anybody interested in being a cop, take some of the whatever you heard here, and hopefully that helps you make that decision. And
yeah, hopefully I still have a job.
Go for that. Go for that process.
Oh, we're not that big yet. So yeah.
And in all reality, thank you for any officer that is listening to this.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your service. I know it's not a fucking easy job at this point in time, and we as a podcast here, we really appreciate your service and everybody else's service member. So thank you.
No, thanks for having me. And the main thing is like, if you're calling a cop or you want to talk to a cop, just realize they're there to help you. We want to help anybody.
Yeah.
But, there's times that, like you were saying, all the defund the police and stuff like that. Yeah, we kind of get down about that type of stuff, but we did sign up for this job for a reason.
Yeah.
We are there to help.
And to serve.
Right.
And that's the thing. People don't realize that the cops are just there to serve. Just like doctors, just like, coaches, just like anybody the service industries are really freaking tough industry to be in.
Yeah. We're not all assholes.
Yeah.
There's some,
but the greater majority of them are not.
The greater majority of them are pretty good guys.
Yeah. And so thank you. I can say it. Jeff said it perfectly. I really do.
Man, you guys took it easy on me. I like this.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. Absolutely. And thank you for your service, man.
All right.
This has been an international podcast transmission of No Fixed Agenda presented by Bubs Naturals. You can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcast episodes. NFA, over and out.